The following is a statement and apology on behalf of Frozen Steel Blog. Good afternoon. Due to an error on my behalf, there were links filmed at the Motorpoint Arena on Saturday that are no longer usable because I forgot to turn the microphone on. I could blame all sorts of gremlins, all sorts of technical difficulties, but it was as simple as that, as I forgot to turn the microphone on. So instead, you're stuck with me presenting this from my house. I do apologise for this, and I hope it doesn't take away from your enjoyment of the show. With that said, let's get on with it. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to episode 4 of The Furnace. It's the first Furnace of this season due to the problems we've had at this wonderful building behind us. Been a while since I've been here and I've bloody missed it. Here's what's coming up on today's show. Firstly, I talked to Match Night Live host Alan Claringbold about how the season has gone so far. We have a brief conversation with Ryan Gleeson about what he's seen so far this year. And I talked to the internet voice of the Steelers, Seth Bennett, about his career and what he thinks of the team this year. Right, first things first, let's go over to a conversation I had with Alan on Saturday afternoon, where we discussed the Steelers so far and a few things around the league. We're here in a secret location which I'm not about to divulge.
Home of the Ginge.
Yes. With our Match Night Live host. Look at this, pay attention. This is Alan Claringbold. You know him, you should know him by now, he's been on a few. How are you, sir?
Not bad. Not bad at all. Quite pleased for a change, really. But we'll get into that.
Yeah. We're going to start with the performances and the players who've impressed you so far. There's been quite a lot.
There has.
You've seen them in the flesh, obviously I've seen most of them on webcast. I've been impressed, obviously you don't see everything. What have you made of it so far?
I think the big thing is there's a heck of a lot of character in this team this year. I mean, we had character last year because obviously we saw it emerge more after Jared first came in, but there's a lot of character and there's a lot of togetherness in that team this year that just did not appear to be there this time last year. You know, this time last year I'd been on Cat's Whiskers, and said it's really not good times in Steelerland. This year's completely opposite 'cause it's really good at the moment, really good.
I think a lot of that is to do with Adams. Obviously he's recruited well, but like you said, you can see then last season he stopped. I don't want to say Doug did wrong, but he brought the room together a bit more. Did G when he came in?
Yeah, I think what some of the players were able to do after Doug went potentially was enjoy what they do for a living a bit more again, and with the core that we've kept, that's filtered on into this year, and the new boys have come in, and they're all settling in really well. So yeah, it's been a very solid start this year.
Any particular performance that stands out?
The first one would obviously have to be Cullen Eddy's performance, very first pre-season game. Considering he'd only been in the country a few days and we'd not been practicing that much, obviously because of the ice issues, I thought he was a real standout player, and of course nowadays it's got to the point where he's a cult hero. He is one heck of a sign. The fact that we got him on a 2-year deal already is boding well for next season if he carries on like this. Frank's been Frank at the back end. He's done really well. Gord's currently on a couple of string of some very good performances, which I wasn't saying this time last year because I wanted him gone, but he's started really well this year. But I think the big surprise in a way as to how quickly he's got back into the swing of thing is Mozzie after his 5-game ban. Because I tell you what, that guy, he's too good for the league. I hate to say it, but I've got to. He's too good for the league. His work ethic is incredible, and his stick handling, his puck handling, his speed, his agility. The guy is sublime. He really is. Touch wood, nothing happens to say Forney or Wah on the top line. I'd throw Mozzie in there straight away. I wouldn't hesitate, because the guy's a cut above. He's got the the work rate, I should say, because he is a workhorse. But he's got the work rate of like a Nate Di Casimiro and a Lee Esders. But he's got the offensive ability of like Vezio Sacratini in his prime. He's a nice little mould of those three little guys, and I'll tell you what, it makes for a heck of a hockey player.
I think him and Fred were very similar players. I think Mosienko's maybe a bit more creative, whereas Fred will finish it. But I think they've both got the same sort of work rate. They're both not afraid to
from
get back.
defensively, I think Mozzie works both ends of the ice, all corners. Doesn't care if he's in front the goal, behind the net, in the corner, on the boards. He doesn't care. Fretter, for me, gives a little bit too much room to the opposition sometimes. Doesn't quite get on the forecheck or backcheck as much, but he's a slightly different mould of player from Mosienko, so that has to be suspected.
Last question, FFR. Still as impressed as you were when we started?
A little. I think some teams are starting to suss it a little bit. I think the real niggle I've got at the moment is Forney taking the face-offs, because he gets kicked out so many.
He does. I'm trying to decide if it's a ploy or it's impatience, because even sometimes
I think he's just jumping the gun a little bit, like a full start in the F1. Just jumping the gun just a fraction. He's just doing it a bit too much. I think what would potentially need to happen is we switch Warren for the face-offs, and every time War gets thrown out, Forney's then got to wait, because if he gets kicked out, it's a 2-minute penalty. And of course, if you switch it round, I'd like to think that Forney had learned to just be just that fraction second a bit more patient, and just be wary of where his skates are on the line, because that's partly why he's getting kicked out half the time, I think. And that will just instill a little bit more patience in him, and then he can switch back into that centre position. It'll be fine then. It's just a little bit of tweaking, then it'll be fine.
Touch on one of the old family favourites, Roddy. He's settled back well, hasn't he?
He has. Obviously, it was slightly annoying that he picked up his injury when he did, but thankfully he's already back from it now. But yeah, he's done okay. Obviously, it took him a few weeks to get into the swing of things, and just he was starting to motor. Of course, he had the puck to the leg. So, but he came back at the weekend, and I thought he did okay.
He's not setting the world on fire anyway, but he
doesn't need to.
No,
he doesn't need to. He's there as a depth defenseman, because he's barely been on the power play units. He's out there as penalty kill. He's out there as a depth D. And he's doing really well. And he took his goal well at the weekend as well, jumping into the play, into the slot all alone.
When's the night meet?
And he took that really well, and he deserved it for the way he started this season.
Do we need to touch on his partner? I think he's calmed down a bit now, hasn't he?
Tomo.
He actually looks solid at the back.
He's doing okay. And I think obviously early doors the pairing just was clearly not working. And Jared did well recently to switch that. It's been nice to actually see that we've changed it up a little bit, because what that's enabled us to do is whenever we've thrown the Brit line out, it's actually something really smart that Jared's doing. He's throwing out any D pairing with any line. But the one thing that's quite key at the moment is whenever he's got like Cone and Baldwin out, or whatever the pairing is, rather than Roddy or Tomo's pairing, when he's got that, one of like the top 2 D pairings out there with the Brit line, it makes that Brit line a little bit more stronger, a little bit more together, and that's actually created some really good depth scoring chances. And hopefully we'll start to see that pay off, because Huey could do with the goal, because Huey's been quite alright the last few weeks.
He's got 4 or 5 already, hasn't he?
He's got 4 or 5. I mean, Jono had 1+3 the other night, and he really deserved that the way he's been playing lately. I mean, if Jono had if Jono had capitalised on some of the scoring chances he's had the last few games, he could have bagged 5 or 6 the last few games, let alone the one he's got to show for his efforts. But that will come. Obviously, he got the goal midweek, and that's hopefully won't be gripping that stick as tight now.
Injuries, Morency. Apparently, it's sort of a decline thing with Morency. It's been waiting to happen. If you listen to all the Twitter warmongers.
Yeah, obviously he had his accident a while ago, and obviously that's going to linger with these kind of injuries, and that's obviously going to play some sort of role still. I should think. He looked okay pre-season. He looked fairly okay. What I saw him, it's just unfortunate that he got the knock early doors. The trouble is with the way the team's playing, I'm struggling to see where he's going to slot in.
Yeah.
That's going to be. It's going to be, a pleasant and an unpleasant headache for Jared. I mean, I'm sure Jared will suss it pretty quick because obviously the guy's been coaching for Christ knows how many years. But with the way the lines have clicked and the way they're gelling, I can only see Morency essentially being on the brick line and Phil Hill dropping back down to 10th forward. It's nothing against Morency personally. We know he's a nice guy. He's made time for the fans. He's done some good interviews on Steelers TV. It'd be nice to see him on the ice again soon, but as to where he fits in, where he plays, I think Jared needs to just be a little wary and also just play it safe and just try not to change too much up, because the way the top two lines have been, especially even despite Dowd being out, having Cullen Eddy jump up onto the forward lines has been sublime, because obviously the guy's got the quality.
John's seen there all the time, but he's been a very good substitute power forward. He has.
Obviously he scored a very nice goal in Hull. Obviously ended up the night with the Gordie Howe hat-trick. I'm sure Gerald will sort it, when the time comes, but I can only see Morency to start with, essentially playing with Huey and Jono and just being involved with the third line, and maybe a little bit of penalty kill, but I seriously doubt it.
The other problem with that is where does Dowd fit? Because the line he was on, Jono's come in and he's on fire.
Yeah, Jono has come in and he's on fire because Jono's got the speed. But I can see Jono dropping back down to third because he's played with Huey a lot the last few years. He adds a bit more speed to that third line then. And it is more of a grind in your face kind of line, him and Huey, especially with Phil Hill on the other wing, and obviously Morency will be similar. Then obviously Dowd will flip back up onto the second line, but before his knockdown he could have done with a goal or two. He's going to come back and he's going to be looking to bury that puck, because he was starting to grip that stick a bit too tight and fluff a couple of chances. So the sooner he comes back and gets that monkey off his back, the better.
I think it was typical Robert Dowd. He thought he could do everything himself, and when it wasn't working he was getting frustrated at himself.
I wouldn't say so. I'd say it's just, Dowdy... The last couple of seasons, Dowdy, he's started slow and then found his feet, usually mid to late October. Just unfortunately this year he's
out for it.
Picked up a knock, and it's going to take him a bit longer to get going. But when he gets going, it'll be fine. But when he comes back, if he's still struggling to find something, it may be worth just flipping onto the top line for a few shifts and then switching either War or Fretter back down. Because Fretter's played with Mozienko in the past. They've linked up well for a couple of Mozzie's goals recently, so maybe switching Fretter and Dowd for a few shifts or for a game or two, just to mix it up a little bit, give the opposition something different to think about, but also give Dowd and Fretz a little bit of a chance just to find a little bit more of a scoring touch and a bit more consistency.
Finally on the players, I think the injuries have given Luke Ferrara a chance, a lot better than I thought he'd be.
I'm not surprised, to be honest. Obviously I wasn't Aaron Neal's biggest fan last year, but I saw Luke play a few games last year in the EPL, and I thought the kid had summit. And obviously, he's come in midweek and he's obviously helped out some weekends. He's applied himself very well. He's looked lively in front of goal. He's doing all right. He's got some speed to him. I'd like to see him play a bit more up here, but obviously it all depends on availability and schedules and stuff, because the way he's played recently in the Orange, he's applied himself very well. He deserved his goal. He deserved his man of the match award the other week, because he had a fantastic game that night. So yeah, more than happy with Luke.
Can you see him becoming permanent next year? Was it too early yet?
If he carries on, I think he'll potentially give one or two Brits a little bit of a run for their money, but he'd probably have a slightly more of a scoring touch than say the likes of Hewitt and Phillips. But obviously, the thing, Phillips has the speed over Ferrara at the moment, because Phillips has always had that. Huey's got the bit more of the tenacity. Ferrara's obviously he's a young talent. He's got the potential. We can see the potential. I'd say if he carries on the way he's going, he'd stand himself in good stead for next season, definitely.
Last player, new player. Let's see how big the smile gets when I mention his name.
Big in terms of my face. I can only imagine how big Oakie's face is. The smile on his face is.
The picture yesterday.
Yeah. He's one proud dad, isn't he? It's going to be good to see Ben over here, because when I saw it on Twitter the other day, I just saw it and I just thought early April Fools, and of course then I saw the article. I was just like, you beauty. We're fortunate that for whatever reason he's not got the team in the league that he was at.
Which is
but
weird.
I'll tell you now, he'll come in and he will play sublime. He may make one or two minor errors, but that's human nature. Everyone makes mistakes, but the guy is head and shoulders the best British defenceman prospect out there. There's a reason why he's already been playing in Europe at his age. There's a reason why he was part of the OHL, with Windsor. The kid's even set records over in Europe for the league over there. So he's a real talent, and we're going to be very fortunate to have him for whatever space of time because quite frankly, if we have him for 2 weeks, I'll be thrilled. If we have him for 1 weekend, great. I can't see him being here long term, because he's going to have teams in Europe lining up for his signature, throwing the money at him, and rightfully so, because he's one heck of a hockey player.
Next we shall talk about the webcast, which is how I've watched most of the games this season. You've watched a couple, haven't you?
Yeah, I've watched a couple. I'm quite impressed. I have to admit, I'm quite impressed. The picture quality is really good when it's not buffering. But that's usually down to our end rather than Steve's end.
It's fine, 95.
So yeah, but yeah, the presentation of it's great. The quick interviews after the periods, with like our players or opposition players, is really good. JJ does a great job with that. The overall presentation is just brilliant. Obviously Seth's involved. He's an incredibly knowledgeable guy, and of course you're doing an interview with him.
Hopefully.
Hopefully at some point. So keep an eye out for that one, folks. So obviously Seth does his research. He knows the game. Great commentator, and obviously we've had guest voices on there with the injuries, where it's been Pascal, Roddy, whoever. It's really good, and the picture quality is great. I love the little rotating graphics that we get in the warm up. It's really good, and they've done very well with it. And obviously, the fact that they're implementing it as often as they are this year could only speak volumes about how well an audience it's reaching. Because obviously, it's already had worldwide views. Because obviously, players' families back in North America or whatever have been watching it.
People know that people in India.
Yeah, as I say, it's absolutely fantastic, and if more teams can get something like that in place, then the better, quite frankly. But that'll take a while to implement. But I have to admit, I'm really impressed with our webcast and the setup.
We have something tasty going on with Hull at the minute.
We do, but to be fair, we've had that ever since they knocked us out with playoff quarterfinals. There's been the whole unfinished business kind of thing, but obviously it develops into something a bit more. More so in their rink.
Yeah.
Because their fans, few and far between, but they do get loud. And obviously, with it being the most versatile arena, supposedly, it generates a bit of atmosphere. And obviously, when the players, have got that kind of crowd and support behind them, tensions will rise and, there'll be heat of the moment things. And obviously, later on in the game, at the weekend, obviously there was a coming together with players, and obviously Cullen Eddy ended up putting one of the whole Stingrays players to bed, and obviously when he was then walking off past the fans are giving it some of that, he stood there giving it some of that back at, and you're going to get that. So, you're going to get, rivalries and intense atmospheres like that. Places like Fife the same. Braehead, that's going to turn into one for a few teams, because obviously they've got one anyway with Fife. They've got one a little bit with Nottingham anyway because of the same prospective owner. But the thing with Braehead is they've got increasing crowds and they're doing a fantastic job. I have to commend them for that, because the increase of the support, how quickly it's come on, like the last year and a half especially, it's brilliant. And they're going to outgrow that little rink soon. The way they're going. So I'm looking forward to going up there in November and just seeing just how full that place will be.
It does help that Finner's built a hell of a team.
It does, and obviously with Finner being the type of player he was, he likes a little bit of that in some of his players. Obviously, you got Chris Frank, you got Fitzy, you got Stephen Mose, not afraid to get stuck in, Ezzy as well. It's a workman's team up there, and obviously they ain't afraid of the rough and rumble, and of course that will get those fans on board as well, because the Clan fans love a bit of rough and rumble themselves. So, yeah, but obviously,
so with this,
the main one we've supposedly got doesn't really exist anymore.
That's what I was trying to say. We've got all these things that are building and they're starting to grow. Why are we continuing to focus on something that's just?
It's because it's been long standing. It's just part of the hype to try and sell tickets, but
they're working.
Not as much as it used to. Because there's been nothing major. I mean, if anything, there's more atmosphere when we go down the NIC, to be honest. Because there's more of their fans. And of course they're all on top here, on top of the officials. We don't do as much as that as what we've done in the past.
No.
But it is what it is. We've got more close run things with other teams now, as of Nottingham. I'm sure at some point down the line there could be a big incident that leads to a bit of a line coming together and whatever, and then there may be a bit of redemption in the next game, stuff like that. Who knows? But
if that happens, that would be fine. I just don't like the forcing.
No, I don't. I don't like the pushing of it's the biggest rivalry, blah blah blah. It's not anymore. I'm sorry, but it's not.
I think they know that now because
Panthers
have just gone to Hamburg, haven't they, and had that experience, and that was an atmosphere for a dead rubber game.
Exactly, exactly. It's just not there. And obviously, the way I'd like to see it. I mean, all it's going to take essentially is either us being there, building, run up the score, and then start mucking around towards the end, like laying a few hits as well when we're so far in front, or likewise if they do it, and then it's going to create a bit more tension and a bit of nastiness in the game, and if it filters through to the next one, then so be it. But there ain't much there anymore, because obviously the style of the game over here is changing, and what once was very intense rivalry isn't. But that isn't down to the fact there's lack of instance. Well, it kind of is. But it's because the game's advancing in a different way from what it used to. You've got more skilled guys that wouldn't necessarily get stuck in. I mean, if you think back to that Simon Ferguson incident with Kelsey Wilson, the two players on the ice behind Ferguson that saw it were Danny Myers and Jeff Le Guy. Not fighters by any stretch of the means. And Jeff Le Guy used to prefer to be a bit stick happy at times, and Danny Myers has had dodgy shoulders at times, so like they were going to do anything. I mean, obviously we had Deeds here filling in for 5 games, and obviously he was a bit unhappy with how Lawrence put the puck in the back of the net at the end of the game in the NIC, and of course he went off the bench and gave him a one-handed slash across the legs. I lambasted him at the time for it, but hindsight, he did the right thing. She was just like, hey, come on, it's a bit of piss taking, but it is what it is. But if it comes back in time, fine. But you know, a lot of the fans get on with each other now. You know, 'cause it's a different generation. It's, you know, the game's advanced, and rivalries will change and they'll thing. And at the moment, the Steelers Panthers rivalry's in a bit of a transitional period at the moment. It will come back, I'm sure. But both sides have got other more intense stuff going on with other teams at the moment. The fans look more forward to.
On sort of that note, congratulations to Jono and Helen.
Yes,
the
definitely.
Panther Steelers marriage, who just found out that Helen's pregnant, so congratulations on the birth of the Steel Panther.
If you get done for copyright now because of that band, then it's your own fault.
Finally, with Alan, we're going to talk about the Department of Player Safety. Very good idea. Few teething problems.
Definitely.
Tell you what, there you go.
We'll switch it, shall we?
Oh, go on.
I'll do the Q&A now. It does all right. It's obviously, you know, in its early stages. It's been needed for a few seasons. I'm pleased to see it's been implemented at long last. I don't agree with some of the findings and results early doors. Take Matt Myers boarding, for example. He's a repeat offender for the incident. He only gets 2 games. Not being funny, but I've watched the video numerous times, and it's worthy of more. You know, it's worthy of, 4 or 5. Nothing, over the top of 5. Certainly not. But he's a repeat offender, and then there's clear intent to finish the hit. But this is a guy that's made the offence before, and with a guy that's been around the league as long as he has and knows he plays a physical game like he does. He probably should have learnt a little bit by now. When you then consider that with Fretter's incident in Hull in the first period from last weekend, he clearly chases down Matt Lark the whole way. Doesn't take his eyes off the numbers or anything. Follows him round the goal, along the boards, ends him. Clear boarding, deserved to get thrown out. The referee's made the right call. But because Dops only gave Matt Myers 2 games, that's the only reason why I think Fretter only got 1. Now, I know both times neither of the Stingrays players were injured on the play, but the hits were more severe than the punishments. Matt Myers is a repeat offender. Fretter should have got 2, maybe 3, something like that. Myers should have got 4 or 5, repeat offender. He's done it before. They're going to make mistakes, whoever it is. It's fantastic that they bring out these video explanations, and of course they've got Seth Bennett doing the voiceover for it, which is the best person for the job, because he does audio and media stuff, and obviously he does our Steelers TV commentary. He knows the game. He knows what he's explaining. And it's nicely staged out. It shows real-time footage. It slows slow motion. It's great, and it's fantastic that the fans get a much better and explained explanation. It helps the fact that the person that's actually speaking understands what he's talking about, and that is a very good base to start Dops on.
Absolutely.
There will be teething problems, because obviously there will be things that people disagree on, like me. I said they've got some stuff right, some stuff wrong. There's room for improvement. It's early doors. It's only come in this season. But I, personally speaking, I'm glad it's here. The YouTube side of it is brilliant. But I think they could potentially just use a little bit more common sense at times, and just a little bit more thinking outside the box, 1 or 2 things. And it will filter out. Next season it will be improved. Season beyond that it will be better. They're going to, make 1 or 2 mistakes still. But the fact that it's here at long last is fantastic. What's your thoughts? That's the important thing. What's your thoughts?
The only thing for me is that because it's so early, they're setting markers for themselves. So when they said Emerson was 3 games eventually, didn't they?
Yeah, but they only said 3 games because that's how many he'd served. They just cut it.
But then at that point, that's just right. That's a marker for how bad everyone's told us the incident was, because it was analysed by refs and stuff, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So then is Portwood's a slightly lesser check to the head and only gets 2? Same with Matt Myers. That Matt Myers incident, he said 2 games. So that way, Fretters has got to be 1.
Yeah, what it is.
So that's another question I'd have: is are they basing it on previous decisions as well? Because
I think they should.
Would Kelsey Wilson have only got 4 games now with this in that?
Kelsey Wilson would have got a much more severe punishment.
Would Tuka McKellar only have got 4 games for that hit on Dowdy? With what the things are now, that would probably have been less.
Say, Mackler's at the time was clumsy. I've said it before. It was clumsy. It was unfortunate. Dowd got injured and was out for as long as he was. There was no malicious intent with the hit. It was just incredibly clumsy and stupid of him.
But if you look at that compared to the Fretter and the Myers ones, that would probably just be upgraded to a game penalty now, and it'd be a game penalty and that'd be it.
Yeah, exactly. Because essentially that's all it deserved. You know, it was clumsy. Yeah, you could probably give a Mackler a game, but then when you look up Fretter's hit, and Fretter gets 1 game for a much more severe hit, where he clearly has the guy lined up for a very long stretch of time, you know, that goes to show just how wrong the Fretter call was and how wrong the Myers call is as well. It just takes a little bit of common sense by whoever the powers that be are at DOPS. But, you know, it's early stages, work in progress. They'll get there, and I've got every faith they will. And these teething issues, they're going to be happening all season long. You know, just my bit would be, like I've said, just try not to compare some of the instances from this season to what happens next season and beyond, because it's the early stages. Stuff's going to look crazy and ridiculous. It is what it is. We just got to put up with it until they straighten things out.
Right, Alan, thank you very much for your time. Pleasure as always. Right, back over to me at the arena, where hopefully I shall have some other faces that you recognise. Thanks to Alan for his time on Saturday afternoon. It was pleasant afternoons talking hockey with people actually in the flesh rather than just on Twitter. It made a novel change. Really enjoyed it, so cheers, mate. Next up, I caught up with Ryan Gleeson outside Entertainment. Didn't have too much time with him, so I just threw some questions at him, and these are his responses.
Players, definitely Colton Fretter. He's so calm, he's silky, he's smooth, but yeah, he's so clinical in front. He's that extra guy that we needed towards the beginning of the season, and I'm hoping he's going to be the guy towards the end. I don't know. He's just great to watch. Just that he can go around the D, he can play D often. He's good coming back and going forward, and he's a pleasure to watch, an absolute pleasure. Performance, definitely Fife at Ice Sheffield when we absolutely smashed them. Not because we smashed them and it was, in a way, it was a boring game, but it was a great performance to watch because we were a team that didn't stop. Usually when you see a team go 4 or 5 up, they stop and they just take the foot off the gas. We just didn't. We just went all the way and just absolutely smashed them. Ben O'Connor. So Ben O'Connor, I think, is a great signing, don't get me wrong. I'd personally say he's the best Brit. Some people would say he's the best D-man Brit because of Robert Dowd, obviously yourself, which, everyone's entitled to that. For me, he's a great signing. I can't wait to see him play tonight. Mike O'Connor looks like the proudest dad ever with the photo that was in Ice Sheffield. He just looks like the most proudest man alive. And he deserves to be, but I think Ben O'Connor, he's a piece to the puzzle. He's not going to win us the league, he's not going to win us the Challenge Cup, he's not going to win us all these trophies, but he's a piece to the puzzle that we need right now, and you need to finish the puzzle, and if he's a piece, why not? So DOPS, I think DOPS is great. It's shown how far the league's come. It's shown us that they've progressed as a league and how professional we're trying to be now. The decisions and things, I think their only decision that I disagree with was the Matthew Myers thing. He obviously only got 2 games. For me, he deserved more because of his previous things. Obviously, I've argued myself that it's a new place, it's a new kind of board as it is, but they still should take into consideration previous. So it was in this calendar year, never mind this season, it was this calendar year. But it is what it is. But apart from that, I think they've done absolutely fantastic. Every ban was deserved, every ban was as long as it should be, and even Colton Fretter, I think he might have deserved more, but he did alright, I suppose.
Next up, I would like to discuss my beardathon again. Thank you to everyone who supported me so far. I'm still on £110. I would like to change that, please. This is roughly 6 weeks' growth, which doesn't look great, but I've not been well, so it's not had the usual nutrition that it usually gets. I will put the link on the bottom in the description again. Raising money for Team George, again, I'll explain all of that again. Anything would help, from £1 upwards would be fantastic. He's not had a great time recently. He's been in and out of Great Ormond Street again. And the poor soul's had to watch Sunderland play as well, so, you know, he just doesn't have much going for him in life. And I'm a Sunderland fan. So, yeah, again, thank you very much to those who donated, but I would like more, please. Thank you very much. This will grow. It's growing till March. I'm off to Portugal next month. Yeah, it's not going to be pleasant. So, thank you. Finally, for this week's show, it's not a weekly thing, I don't know what to say really. For this latest show, I will send you over to myself at the arena when I remembered to turn the microphone on and spoke to a legendary voice in the British game. Yeah, he is. I think he is. He's one of the most recognisable voices in British ice hockey, Seth Bennett.
The gentleman next to me, you might recognise his voice, but you may not recognise his face. This is Mr. Seth Bennett, long-time radio commentator. Pleasure to meet you, sir.
Lovely to meet you.
How are you doing?
Yeah, very well. Thank you very much.
Right, I'm just going to get to business. I don't want to take too much of your time. How do you go from doing a World Cup in Brazil and doing an Olympic final in Russia to a cold Saturday night in Sheffield?
Why not? I mean, that's kind of the job, isn't it, of what we do, whether it's going off and doing some football match at a ground that's in the middle of nowhere with not too many fans, or whether it's being in Brazil at a World Cup semi-final. You know, that's what you've got to do. And I'm somebody who, you know, if I wasn't here on a Saturday night watching the hockey, I think my life would be worse. If I'm sitting here in the seats down there, I find it hard because I love to commentate. You know, if I'm sitting there, I've got this commentary going through my head. So great for me that, you know, and I think about it when I first started in '98. Pretty much straight from then, I've almost commentated on every game one way or another, whether it's been on the radio, whether it's been for the videos over the years when Vision Mix were making them, or nowadays it's for the webcast. So, you know, it's wonderful.
You were one of the first voices when I started watching, which was 2008, I think.
Yeah.
So you were first I've been familiar with from your things in the programmes. How does it compare to football you do? Is it much different task or?
Yeah, I mean this is about having fun. You know, I can come here on a Saturday night and yeah, you do your work, you do your preparation, but you know, there aren't too many times in your life where you can go on air for 2.5 hours. And to me, it doesn't make any difference. If we've got 5 people watching, or if we've got, you know, like on the BBC, we had 5.5 million watching the USA-Russia game, it doesn't make any difference. You know, the show is exactly the same. What you do is the same. How I try and react is the same. And I hope that people want to take that journey with me, whereby, you know, if you're going to buy a webcast, we're going to try and give you a bit of entertainment. We're going to try and give you a bit of information that maybe you didn't know before. And we're going to try and bring you a pretty good game of hockey as well. Now, we're not always blessed with all of those things. Generally, it's the hockey players that let us down. But so far this season, it's been pretty good.
It has been. It's hard to compare it to maybe the Super League teams that I've seen videos of and been told so much about. How does it compare with the Elite Era teams to you?
I mean, I can only tell you that in March. When you see a team, this has the makings. I look down on the ice right now, and there aren't too many holes in this lineup. I think there could be a couple of question marks. I think the fact, though, that they've gone as they have gone so far, which is one defeat with penalty shots against Cardiff, so far unbeaten in the Elite League. You look at the fact that this team has found ways to win. They have a really good goaltender who knows what it takes to win. And ironically, should have been a Cardiff Devil. In the end, he's a Sheffield Steeler playing for the guy that recruited him for Cardiff in the first place. It's funny how life has these little quirks, but it looks really strong. That first unit looks, you know, I think they're 3 really good hockey players. For me, the best of them is Freta by a considerable distance. I think the other 2 have taken the headlines, but I think Freta is a phenomenal talent. But I think when you come down the lineup and you realise that really it's the 3rd unit that's been playing in the second line, and it's been the extras that have been making up the 3rd unit, and I say that with all respect, you know, this is a team that could very easily run 4 lines with 3 centremen, and that's something that's very exciting to me. And you know, I think that Gerrard has got a view on what he wants. He's got a blueprint of what he feels will bring him success. I think he's also got a feeling about what Sheffield needs to do as a hockey club now to be successful, but also look the other way. You know, he used the young kids in Cardiff, he brought them into the team, he gave them opportunities. How's he going to do that here? You know, Ben O'Connor's been around the world before eventually he makes his debut for the Sheffield Steelers. He played at Queen's Road. He came through the system here. Okay, he had to go away to get to the level he's at now, but Sheffield needs to find ways to develop those 12s, those 14s, those 16s. If you've got a kid in Sheffield, it's almost impossible to get him to play hockey. There's so many kids down there. So I think this is going to be really important, and having a head coach that has one eye on that is going to be a big thing for the Steelers.
It's a positive to see even a kid like Jack Transfield get called up just for the experience. Something that's been lacking in recent years, really, isn't it? Probably since the Haywoods, and maybe as late as Tom Squires that the Sheffield kids have played in the Steelers.
Look, I think it's always been lacking. I think that unfortunately, when it was Queen's Road, it was an us and them situation. Steelers didn't necessarily care about what was going on at Queen's Road. People at Queen's Road were mad that all of a sudden, having fostered ice hockey in this city for years and years and years, there was these big brash boys that came and took it down to the arena and were adored, and they were still kind of left where they were. Steelers didn't have any interest really in it back then. You then look through all the different eras, you get Ice Sheffield come, there's another split, there's another faction. Then the Steel Dogs come into the equation, there's another faction. You know, I've always said the best thing you could ever do is, if I won the Euro Millions, I wouldn't just buy Sheffield. I'd buy Sheffield, I'd buy the Steel Dogs. I'd make sure there was one structure that runs top to bottom. And in the end, they have to find that relationship, because it's the young kids of Sheffield that are going to miss out. And that's, you know, that's the disappointing thing, is where is the kid that was born and bred in Sheffield, that came through the ranks here, that had his opportunity maybe to go to North America, but came back and became a Sheffield Steeler and came and led this team as a Sheffield-born player. You know, mate, I know Ben O'Connor wasn't Sheffield-born. Maybe Ben O'Connor will one day be that captain of the Sheffield Steelers that came through the youth system. I think that that's something that's really exciting, but it's just how you make it happen. Big question.
Long, steady process, isn't it? Yeah. Right, don't want to keep too much of your time. So, last question. Pretty much, you do the job I wanted to do when I was growing up. I wanted to be a sports journalist, go off doing football reporting and that. Have you got any hints or tips for the kids who I know do want to be journalists and want to cover ice hockey as a profession?
Well, you're probably never going to cover ice hockey as a profession. You know, in terms of my work, ice hockey is this much. In terms of my enjoyment, it's probably this much, and that's why you do it, because it's not going to pay the bills, but it means that when I come here to the arena, I can have a good time. And you know, my fortune is that it's taken me to a Winter Olympics, and you know that is a phenomenal thing to have on my CV as part of my career. So you know, I think from that part of it is great having interest in lots of different sports. And you know, if you want to be a commentator, commentate on everything, on anything. You know, if you're somebody that wants to be a Sheffield Steelers commentator or want to commentate on ice hockey, come here to the game, record it into your phone and listen to it. Do it. And that's the only way you're ever going to get the chance. You know, there's Audio Boo, there's editing facilities now, there's all the stuff you can put online and you can be available. Just do it. And then follow it and keep following it and keep following it. And if you believe you're good enough, you've got a very, very good chance. A lot of people told me no along the way. Thankfully, I was bold enough, brash enough and stupid enough to just plough on regardless.
That's very good advice. Right, Seth, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Pleasure. Right, back to me somewhere else.
So thank you to Seth for being an absolute pro then. Absolutely fantastic responses. I had a great time talking to him, even if it was just for 5 or 10 minutes. Very knowledgeable guy. He, like I said in the interview, he's doing the job that I wanted to do when I was younger. Privileged to have talked to him, so thank you very much, Seth. Really, really grateful. So all that's left for me to do is to say thank you and apologise, I suppose. Thank you to Alan for his hour or so on Saturday afternoon. Loved talking hockey with him, it was fantastic. Thank you to Ryan for his few minutes. Top bloke, really knows what he's on about. Very level-headed as well, as you saw last week with what he wrote. And also thank you to Seth again for his time pre-game. While he was doing his preparation for the game, he said I could have some time with him. Massively appreciated, Seth. Many, many thanks. if you never need out, come find us. We owe you one. Apologies to Tom and Mark, who I was supposed to talk to on camera and just did not have the time for on Saturday, I'm afraid. Too much going on, and I was really enjoying the game. I don't want to apologise for that because it was a really good game of hockey to watch. So, with all that said, next episode will likely be sometime at the start of December. Due to me going away, I'm not going to any games next month. There may be something from Tom and Alan going to Braehead, but I'm not making any promises because I don't know what their full plans are. So as it is now, we will see you in December. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for reading. Thank you very much for supporting us. Just thank you. Take care. We'll see you soon.